Hello, everyone. My name is Claire Brady, and I will be reporting on Module 2, Communication for Development. Specifically, the difference between traditional DevCom and communication for development. So today we have two key objectives. Firstly, we will explore the difference between traditional and contemporary development communication models. Secondly, we'll go into the significance of dynamic and participatory communication strategies used by international organizations for effective and sustainable development outcomes. So let's get started. Moving into our first focus area, let's look at the theory behind the traditional development communication approach. This approach is often characterized by what we call the unilinear communication model. Let's break down its key features. First, it involves a one-way flow of information, where communication moves in a linear path from sender to receiver. Second, there's limited feedback, creating a communication process that is more directive than interactive. And last, this model often relies on an expert-centric information flow, where the emphasis on the expertise of the sender rather than the collaborative engagement. These features lay the foundation for an understanding of how traditional communication theories operate. Now, let's shift our focus to the practical side of the traditional development communication approach. We'll start by examining key models that have shaped this approach. These include, first, the Laswell's model, or a classic representation of unilinear communication. Second one is Aristotle's unilinear flow, reflecting a linear progression from the speaker to the audience. The third one is Berlow's continuous and ever-changing process, illustrating a dynamic but continuous flow. As we explore these models, it is important to highlight a significant limitation: the tendency for limited community engagement. The traditional approach often falls short in actively involving communities in the communication process. This limitation is something we'll go into further as we move along. Now, let's look at the theory behind communication for development. This approach is shaped by two models, the transactional model and the systems model. In the transactional model, communication becomes a dynamic, two-way exchange, fostering continuous engagement between participants. The systems model takes a holistic approach, viewing communication as part of a larger system, embracing participatory planning and diverse participants. Essentially, this approach is characterized by two-way, cyclical communication, participatory planning, and a holistic systems approach. These features are instrumental in driving impactful and sustainable development outcomes. Transitioning from theory to practice, let's go into how communication for development unfolds in real-world scenarios. We'll examine two influential models. First is the Osgood's interactive model. It is illustrating the dynamic interplay between encoding and decoding, emphasizing continuous interaction. The second one is Kincaid's convergence model, highlighting the mutual understanding achieved through dynamic participant interactions. I also want to emphasize three key pillars: community involvement, feedback, and adaptability. These elements are at the core of successful communication for development strategies, ensuring that initiatives are not only impactful, but also responsive to the evolving needs of communities. As we compare traditional and communication for development approaches, let's zoom in on three critical differentiators. First is the flow of information. In traditional models, information often follows a one-way path from sender to receiver. In communication for development, it's a dynamic two-way flow engaging participants actively. The second one is feedback mechanism. Traditional models typically have limited or sporadic feedback. Contrastingly, communication for development thrives on continuous feedback loops, fostering an ongoing exchange of insights. Third one is the level of community involvement. Traditional approaches may limit community engagement. Communication for development, however, prioritizes active community involvement, recognizing it as a catalyst for sustainable outcomes. Understanding these differentiators is key to appreciating the transformative shift in communication strategies. Understanding different communication models is crucial for development. It shapes how we explain and plan communication processes. Recognizing these models help us create more effective and inclusive strategies. Essentially, it is the key to making a real impact. Let's appreciate the significance of these models as we conclude our discussion. So as we conclude our discussion, I leave you with two thought-provoking questions. The first one, can you share an example from your experience where traditional communication methods fell short in development context? How might a more dynamic approach have improved that outcome? And the second question, thinking about your current or past projects, how do you ensure community engagement and feedback in your communication strategies? Feel free to reflect on these questions or share your experiences. Your insights contribute to the ongoing dialogue on effective development communication. Thank you all for your engagement, and I'm now open to any questions or reflections you may have. Let's continue this conversation.